Hey, y'all come on in. Come on in. La la la. Week two. I ain't gonna sing too loud. I ain't gonna sing too loud.
Go right ahead. Be free. Be free.
She ready. Come on in. Come on in. Week two. She ready, y'all. She ready. You ready, Amber?
She ready. She ready.
We ready. We ready. Hello, you guys. Welcome to week two of Growing in Gentleness, a weekly conversation for the gentle and not so gentle parent or caregiver. For those who don't know me, I'm Elise, founder of Parenting for the Culture, and I am super excited for week two conversation with the Amber Ashford. If you guys do not know her, you are in for a treat. And if this is your first time meeting her, I doubt it'll be your last connecting or following with her. And so I'm gonna let her. Well, I'm gonna give a little slight introduction. Then I'm gonna let her tell a little more about herself. But you guys, when I tell you I love this woman, like we had the opportunity to be co-workers, and even though we work in a different context now. We still working together in a lot of different ways. We went from co-workers to friends to sister friends, like just all the things, right? And when I tell you, she comes with so much wisdom and knowledge, not just as a wife and a mother, but also as a licensed mental health professional, as a licensed school social worker. Like the girl got it going on, y'all. And today she is stepping into this space, particularly as an attachment specialist. And so I know I announced how this week we're talking about attachment and parenting. And maybe you're like, what is that? Like, girl, what are you talking about? Well, you're gonna find out today. All right. So I'm gonna let Amber tell a little more about herself before we jump into today's conversation.
Thank you so much for that. So as you mentioned earlier, I am a wife. We will be celebrating, oh my gosh, 3 years next month. Woo woo. Have two little, well, I got a little one and a teenager. The youngest is 9 months today, and I have a 16-year-old. And as Elise also stated, I am a licensed therapist, attachment specialist, and I just love working with individuals to just help them identify those tools they need to work through problem solving. I recognize that, we as individuals, we have a desire for authentic connections and relationships, right? But we struggle with that. We struggle with that because we have a fear of vulnerability, and that's also rooted in a lack of trust. And so, as a licensed therapist, as an attachment specialist, and someone who has spent so many years just developing the skills to overcome insecure attachment, I'm just so passionate again about just helping people discover their self-worth. We want to and like develop those skills that foster confidence and just cultivate self-love again, so we can learn how to problem solve and have these healthy relationships and learn how to communicate effectively and build so much confidence in ourselves, so that we can thrive.
Yes, I love that so much. And so I'm hearing you name, attachment specialists. Can we just break that down? Because that's really going to be the groundwork for the rest of this conversation. So for those who are listening, also, guys, if you listening, let us know you here. If you live, say something. And if you're catching a replay, hashtag replay, all right? So we can know you called us a little later. But Amber, for those who are listening, can you kind of just set the groundwork for us on what is attachment? What is that?
Yes. So attachment is essentially how we connect with others. And that connection can be either social or emotional. That's literally what it is, how we connect with others socially and emotionally. And this starts to form in childhood. And as we grow, it influences the way that we approach relationships and how we view relationships throughout life. And this can be personal or professional.
Okay. So I'm going to try to paraphrase. You're saying that attachment is basically the blueprint for
Mhm.
how we learn how to connect with other people.
Absolutely.
So it's even our ability to emotionally connect with other people also. I
Mhm.
heard you name romantically and professionally. So any connection we make in the world is basically how we attach to the person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Tell us a little more about how this idea, right? This theory, I know it's research behind it, right? Studies behind it, but how is attachment connected to parenting? Connect the dots. Well, we know this is a weekly live, right? We're talking about gentle parenting or just all
Mhm.
things parenting, to be honest. So why are we talking about this when it comes to this topic?
So because attachment literally starts to form in childhood, it starts to form when we are infants. It has everything to do with parenting. And so literally attachment says, this is how my parent responds to my needs, whether
Mhm.
these are physical needs, emotional needs, right? My parent essentially, or caregiver, allows me to feel safe. I trust them because they are showing up for me and they are meeting those needs. So, and this is also, like I said, because it's physical. This is like them feeding me, changing me, picking me up when I cry, right? This is them literally saying, "Hey, I see you, and you matter."
Wow. So it is how a parent responds to the need. I love that because last week we talked about basically four needs that is the foundation of this idea of gentle parenting, but also those are needs that every child need, right? And so
Right.
for you to say that attachment is literally how a parent responds to the need, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Tell us a little more about attachment within itself, because I know there are four different attachment styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you kind of walk us through those four different styles? Because again, what you're saying is so important because you just named that our attachment style is formed in our childhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on how our parent responds to us. And so
Mm-hmm.
this means, like you said in the beginning, this then connects to how we connect to other people. So
Yes.
can you kind of walk us through what are the different type of attachment styles when it comes to what is cultivated in our childhood?
So the very first type of attachment style that we have is the secure attachment. And this is formed when the child recognizes and sees that, hey, my parent is consistent. My parent is showing up for me whenever that need is, whatever it is, whenever it happens, they're showing up consistently. So for instance, as a child, because again, like I said, with this whole infancy stage, when I cry, my parent comes immediately, right? We're not delaying their response time. So this is my parent is affectionate with me. My parent hugs me. My parent talks to me. We have a lot of eye contact going on. And as a result, because my parent is, this reinforces trust, right? Now I see that my parent is a safe space. This is my safe haven.
Mhm.
And as
Mhm.
I grow and as I develop as a child, I feel safe to explore. I feel
Mhm.
safe to create new things. I'm more confident. I have high self esteem, right? And then what we start to see in adulthood is that because I've seen this as a child, because this was modeled for me as a child, I'm going to look for this in my relationships as an adult. So
Mhm.
whether this is personal, professional, friendships, whatever it may be, right? Romantic, I am going to look for these same things because when I was a child, right, my parent, my mom, my dad, uncle, whoever that caregiver is, right, they set the stage for me. And
Mhm.
so now, fast forward as an adult, I am going to be confident and secure in relationships. I won't need that constant reassurance. And I'm respectful of other people's needs while also honoring my own. And that is one thing that I absolutely love about this, that we don't ignore ourselves, right? In this secure attachment piece here. So essentially, what we see is confidence, we
Mhm.
see healthy communication, we see honoring our emotions, we see respect, right? And the list can go on and on and on, right? But that's
Right.
essentially what that secure attachment is. I'm safe,
Mhm.
I trust, and as a result, I want to be able to see that in relationships as well and also be able to give that. I'm able to give that.
Yes, I love that. And going back to what Andre quoted, the blueprint for connections, right? And the
Mhm.
blueprint for relationship. 'Cause what you're saying is based on a child being able to form a secure attachment in childhood based on how their parent responds to their needs. What I just heard you say is that that child is now able to identify healthy relationships.
Absolutely.
Girl, that's so that is so powerful. And I work with families, on attachment like this. this idea or this truth, it is so powerful, which is why I had to bring you in, like, to really talk about it, right, beyond my scope, because again, it sets a child up to be able to identify what a healthy relationship looks like. I know last week we talked about the need for respect, right? This element of gentle parenting where we respect our kids. And
Yeah.
imagine, and we feel like we have to talk a certain way to a child sometimes so they won't become disrespectful. But imagine a child who understands, I have been so respected in my household from my parents. I'm
Yes.
able to identify disrespect and know if I want to connect to it or not. So they know what their tolerance is for, what they will and will not tolerate. Like, that is a gift. That is a gift. So I love how you're defining secure attachment. So secure attachment is the goal, right?
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Secure attachment is the goal. All right. And
Yes,
so
yes.
there are three other attachment styles though, right? And so secure attachment was the first one, and then there are three other styles. Can you tell us about those?
Yes. So the three other styles are considered insecure attachments. And the first one that I'm going to tell you guys about is the anxious attachment style. And so this one is formed when the parenting is inconsistent, right? This is sometimes I respond to your needs, sometimes I don't. This can also come from parent or guardian seeking to fulfill their own desires for themselves rather than to fulfill the child's needs. And so this could also look like the parent or guardian being intrusive or overprotective, right? And so what tends to happen with this child is they have a hard time separating from their parents. They may experience some separation anxiety, or when their needs are met, they hold on to it for dear life because they're so afraid, oh my gosh, what if they're not in the mood to meet my needs the next time I need them? And so we even see some clinginess in this, right? And so as I grow up, if I'm this child who has had these anxious attachments, my mom, dad, like I said, whoever it may be, has kind of been on the fence back and forth. Now I'm anxious in relationships, right? I'm worried. I'm consistently worried about the state of my relationship. And what happens is I work so hard at preserving the relationship. And so I'm honoring my partner, or if I'm at work, I may be going the extra mile and I'm not considering myself. If I'm in a friend, I'm going overboard to tend to other people's needs. I'm highly, highly sensitive to their needs, but I'm ignoring my own. Right. I see people as just so great, but I'm insecure about myself. And then sometimes we may see some jealousy show up as a result. We may see some desperation. Like I said, I mentioned the low self-esteem, the whole insecurity, and it's all because I see myself in a negative light. And what happens is, even when something comes up, right, they tend to blame themselves for things that happen. So if there's an argument, or if someone disrespects them, or whatever the case may be, oh my gosh, what did I do to make this person do this to me?
And this is the anxious, insecure attachment. So to just break it down in one sentence, what are they anxious about?
They're anxious about the love being lost. They're anxious about their needs not being met.
Gotcha. Anxious about the love being lost, because potentially, based on the studies and the research, potentially the anxious attachment style experience what again in childhood? Can you name that for us?
They experience that inconsistency. So essentially what happens is sometimes my parent shows up for me and meets those needs, and sometimes they don't. Gotcha. And again, something else that happens with this that we see is that emotional hunger. And that's when I talked about my parent is using me to fulfill their own needs as opposed to meeting my needs.
Yeah, that is. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Finish
that
thought.
Yeah, so that essentially where the anxiety comes from. This is why I'm so nervous in relationships, because as a child, my parent was inconsistent. And so now I'm afraid that this is going to continue to happen throughout life.
So good, so good. And I had to pin Arrington up here. Great information. Yes, I hope y'all got y'all notebooks out and taking notes. I'm telling y'all, she's gonna be dropping some gems. And I also want to just name, like, yes, although this is great information, I just want to be very clear, you guys. We are not here to be beat up in any way. If anything, we're here to be built up in our parenting
Mhm.
journey. And I say that because some of this information, like it can be triggering, right? Based on your childhood experiences or even where you are in your parenting journey. But I want us to remember we are here to be enlightened. All right. We are here to be enlightened, not to be embarrassed in any way. And so if those feelings come, I want you to remind yourself why we're here. Okay. Me and Amber not here to beat anybody up. I promise you. The goal is to build up our understanding, our awareness, and our capacity so we can make some shifts in our parenting if we so desire, right? And so, yes, thank you so much for that, Amber. So we've gone over the secure attachment. You said the other three are insecure, and the first one we just hit on was anxious. All right. What are the other two?
So the third one is avoidant attachment. That's the avoidant attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially what we see in this parent, they do not tolerate expression of emotion.
My God, today. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No, you're good, right? So
Girl, let's talk about it. Okay, say that again and keep going. I'm sorry, I mean to interrupt you.
yeah, you're good. They do not tolerate expression of emotion.
Mm,
And this could be joy, this
mm,
could be sadness, this could be anger, whatever it may be, they do not tolerate it,
mm,
right? Um, and as a result, right, this parent is emotionally distant. So those emotional needs those babies don't feel that.
mm,
And this parent is also really strict. They have these hard, rigid boundaries, and they expect the child to be independent and tough,
mm,
right?
mm,
And how can I, as a child, be independent and tough,
mm,
right? And so what happens is, as I'm growing up, I do become independent, but
mm,
I don't have any empathy.
mm,
And because my needs have not been met as a child, I expect other people not to meet my needs.
Girl, say that again.
Because my needs have not been met as a child, I expect other people not to
Mm,
meet my needs.
mm. And this is the anxious, attachment style.
This is the avoidant attachment.
Avoided attachment style. Thank you for clarifying. This is the avoidant attachment style. I expect other people to not meet my needs. So how does that come up in our relationships as an adult? So let's say a child experiences this attachment style in their childhood.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's say they cultivate this same attachment style. How does this play out in their adult relationships?
So in these adult relationships, they believe that everybody should tend to their own needs as opposed to support each other.
Mm,
And what happens is they're dismissing in these relationships.
mm,
They do not like don't even try any emotional or physical intimacy. So it's like like flag on the play. Even they go, you
mm,
know what I'm saying? Like they are like, mm-mm. And here's the thing. It's not because they don't have a desire for that, because they
yeah,
do. They
mhm,
do. They have a desire for connection,
mhm,
but they're not motivated to do it again because they feel like that need won't be met. So what's
yeah,
the point? That's where that lack of empathy comes in, right? What's the point?
mm,
And something that I found to be very interesting with this one is that these people are very successful in the
mm,
corporate world,
mm,
you know. But with that success comes loneliness because they're also seen as the lone wolf.
mhm,
They prefer to be alone. And whenever you have interactions with them, it's very, very surface level. We're not going deep. No, we're not going deep. We're gonna keep it up here. Because God forbid, if I open myself up, if I'm vulnerable with you, you're not going to meet my needs. So I'm not going to do it.
mhm. Because their blueprint taught them potentially, right, in their childhood is that if I'm honest about my needs are not met.
Mhm.
Therefore, as an adult, I can't be vulnerable enough with you to be open about my needs because I've learned, life has taught me then my needs won't be met. And what you said was so powerful, that we see in the research and in the studies that these people are usually super successful in the
Mm-hmm.
corporate world because you
Yep.
can detach the emotions in that sense, right? In that setting.
Mm-hmm.
That is so good. And I also love what you said. We kind of hit on this last week too when it comes to connection. So it's this appearance that I don't care, right? I'm not bothered. I don't have no feelings. But it's like, no, we all are wired for connection, even if it's buried real deep down in there, right? Or it's been really buried over the years. We all have a desire for connection. Girl, that's so good. Let's look at some of these comments. Oh, yeah, that's a husband. That's a boo thing.
Thank you, Boo. Thank you.
Help today. Angela, yes, thank you, Angela. Let me see what Erin said. She said, "Oh Lord, I came here and I realized this is helping me as an adult woman and mother." Yes, I love it, Erin. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. Good stuff. Yes, thank you, Amber. So, okay, remind us what we have hit on so far, and then tell us that last. I'm sorry. Is there anything else you want to say on this one?
Oh no, we're good. We can recap. Yep.
Okay. So recap what we've hit on and let us know what our other attachment style is.
So we've already hit on secure attachment, and we've hit on the anxious attachment, which is the first of the insecure attachments, and we've hit on avoidant, which is the second, right? And then finally, we have disorganized.
This the I mean they all the one, right? But this one right here, go ahead, girl.
This one here, I'm gonna be honest with you. The research says this is actually one of the ones that can be the most challenging to recover from. So it's not impossible. Let me name that. It is not impossible, right? However, because this one is characterized by abuse and neglect, and a lot of trauma is experienced, it can be more hard, more challenging to recover from this, but it's possible, okay? And this is the disorganized attachment. And the main takeaway with this one, the primary source for safety, the primary source for attachment is also a source of fear.
Hold on. You can't just skate past this, right? we gotta unpack that a little, because I want to make sure that we all hear clearly what you're saying, because what you just named is super powerful when it comes to this topic and this work. And so you named disorganized attachment style is literally when the child, so let's back it up for a second.
Okay.
All of us as children have this innate desire for safety, and we are wired to see our caregiver as that source of safety, right? That's how we're wired. It's innate. It's how we're built. Okay. And so what I just heard you say, Amber, is that disorganized attachment is because, again, we have this one part of our brain circuit that is move towards the parent for safety, but it's confusing or makes our brain disorganized when the parent is also the source of fear. Girl, that just gave me chills. When the parent is also the source of fear. And I want to really put a pin right here for a second, because I know when it comes to the topic of gentle parenting, even though it is so much more than this, a lot of people are always going back to whoopings. I say whoopings, probably say spankings, I don't know. But people always going back to this topic, which is important, right? It's super important, it's super relevant. And I think this particular conversation about this attachment style is so huge, because what that is saying is that when we talk about physical punishment, when a child is in that moment, how disorganized that makes the brain, because one circuit is saying move towards the caregiver to be safe, and the other circuit is saying run away from this person because they are literally the one causing your pain. And so in that moment, my God, it causes a unsolvable biological problem, because you are trying to move to, like, girl, can you talk a little more on this disorganized attachment style, and again, just how it connects to parents, maybe even beyond what I just said?
Okay. And so with this one, like I said, because my main source of safety, right? My main source for learning what attachment is in life, how I'm going to connect with people, I'm also afraid of this person. and I'm afraid of this person because either I have been abused by this person or I have witnessed them abuse someone else.
Mm,
And let me just name, this is not just limited to physical abuse.
mm,
Unfortunately, this could be sexual abuse. This could be verbal abuse,
mm-hmm,
right? That mental and emotional abuse. But I have seen my caregiver, right, who on one hand may be gentle with me, but because I've seen this person attack my mom or attack my dad or attack my sibling, I'm afraid.
mm, mm,
Or because this person was so physically aggressive with me, or because this person sexually assaulted me, I'm afraid.
mm,
And I love that you named the confusion piece because that's literally what that parenting does. It causes the child to feel confused.
mm,
And as a result, what this child will do, every opportunity for connection, every opportunity for attachment will be approached with defense and distrust.
mm,
Because I have to protect myself.
mm.
Mm,
Wow. Wow.
mm. And can you imagine how exhausting that is? I'm
Mm.
always in defense mode.
I'm here in survival mode, right? Which is at the heart of trauma, because we have to remember, like, traumatic events are not the events themselves.
Oh,
It is
absolutely.
when it's the way we process it, or to be
Right.
honest, when we fail to process that unresolved piece. And so, wow, yes, yes.
Yes, yes. Um, and another thing that causes that confusion, right? Sometimes because this child themselves will eventually become aggressive, they'll get in trouble for that.
Mm,
I just saw my daddy throw a chair. You know what I'm saying? But when I have get upset and I kick the wall, now I'm
mm,
being punished for this.
mm,
And so, this child is more comfortable expressing anger than any other emotion.
mm,
For one thing, and this is for caregivers, teachers, the villagers, whoever you are, however you relate to this child, one thing I want you guys to keep in mind, this is, me too. Underneath that anger is fear, is hurt, is sadness.
yes. We're gonna dive into that in the upcoming week, but that is so true. And I definitely don't mind talking about that a little bit right now, in the sense of, like, looking, I love what you named, looking beneath the
Yep.
anger. And so a lot of people don't realize that anger is actually a secondary emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Absolutely.
secondary, because
Yep.
underneath it is the real emotion, whether that's the disappointment, the hurt, the sadness, like you named, right? And so
Mm.
when we think about this attachment style and knowing there is so much beneath it,
Yeah.
girl, that is so good.
Mhm.
Operating to survive and not thrive. Yes. So
It-
can you now, I know you hit on it, but can you kind of just paint a clear picture for us, for what the disorganized attachment can look like in adulthood and relationships?
Absolutely. So in relationships, the adult can be very explosive with
Mm,
their anger. Their relationships, I'm going to be honest, is going to be very, very dysfunctional. And I'm going to be honest, this is also that attachment style where you may see a lot of abuse.
mm,
Um, they don't respect boundaries, right? So if someone is trying to communicate a boundary, uh, this is not something they respond well with. And here's the thing about them, they have a desire for connection. So whereas with the avoidant, I'm desiring it, but I'm not motivated for it.
mm,
With the disorganized, I have a desire, but I'm afraid.
kind of like that double dutch moment, like we talk about with the physical punishment, right? I want to run to you, but this is what's my fear, so I need to run away. Wow,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Mhm,
And the thing that really resonates with me, to be honest, it breaks my heart more than anything. They expect and wait for disappointment and rejection.
mm,
That's what
wow,
they expect. And so because they expecting this, because I'm always in survival mode, you're going to see a lot of aggression. You're going to see a lot of disrespect. And like I mentioned before, oftentimes we do see a lot of physical, we do see a lot of abusive relationships with this style.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. And I just want to name, because you hit on it, Amber, but I think it's important to like really reiterate that all of these, right? All three of these insecure attachment, you guys, they are not a diagnosis. Okay. This is not, oh, you're diagnosed with this. This is what it is for the rest of your life. No, again, this is a blueprint. And the beauty about being made aware of this blueprint is that we can go back and change it, right? We can reconstruct some things. And I know you named the disorganized one is like the hardest one or the toughest, or takes the most intention, I'm gonna say.
Yes.
Reframe that. It takes
Yeah.
intention, right, to kind of rebuild that or remap that blueprint. But it's possible, and so that means we all have the opportunity to move towards that secure attachment if that is not where you currently are. And I love this was named sounds like generational patterns, because that is so true, and that is the beauty of having these conversations. That's why parenting is so powerful, because once we recognize, oh my God, this has been happening generation after generation, like we then have the awareness to know what cycle needs to be broken, right? We hear a lot about cycle break. We make it like this glorified thing, but sometimes it's just the awareness and literally knowing what to sit with, right? To
Yeah.
interrupt something. And so, yes, very, very powerful, super powerful truths, Amber, when it comes to those attachment styles. Anything else you want to hit on with any of those four?
No. That is a good overview for all of them. Don't want to go too deep. Information overload.
Okay. So let me ask you this. If I am a parent listening to you right now and I'm like, wow, maybe I'm familiar with this, maybe this is all brand new information. Either way, if I'm a parent listening and maybe they recognize that they currently have an insecure attachment, I also think it's super important that we name, we're not saying the person is insecure. We're not saying the child is insecure. We're saying their attachment to the caregiver is what's insecure, right? I think that's important to name. But if someone has identified themselves as being in one of those insecure categories, what advice would you give them to help them move toward secure attachment?
So the reality is, even if we've experienced this with our caregiver, with our guardian, whoever it may be, there are still some people we've come across who have had healthy connections, right? So whether we saw this with our friendships and their families, whether we saw this with extended family members or even coworkers, right? There are people that we can identify who have healthy connections. And something that is so very possible, right? Because attachment is fluid. Things that have been learned can be unlearned. And so based on what we have seen in those healthy connections, we can take steps, right? To just, and we're not gonna dive deep, right? Just again, because we want to be gentle with ourselves. And right now we're just raising awareness, as you mentioned earlier. But if you're able to identify some other healthy connections, it in turn can influence you to develop those same patterns, those same habits. So anything that can be learned, it can also be unlearned. Things can be relearned, things can be changed. And that is the beauty of all of this. We not stuck. We
Yeah,
ain't stuck. So
yeah.
yeah.
Love that. I love that. So I'm wondering again, for those who are listening, is there anything practical we like to? I try to like to leave the listeners or the viewers with something, a practical step for this week. So whether that is a parent who's realizing they may have an insecure attachment style, or maybe they realize they are currently not on the track to form a secure attachment for their child. Is there anything practical we can do in either one of those areas, either for security with self or for the blueprint that's being created for the child? What can parents do this week to move towards that secure attachment?
So something that parents can start doing this week with their children, if you have any babies, any infants, little ones, the littles, something you can be intentional about doing is during those feeding times. So whether you nurse your baby, whether you bottle feed, or even if they're at the high chair right now, is being intentional about eye contact, being intentional about turning off the screens,
Mhm.
right? If I am nursing my baby or bottle feeding him, I'm looking him in his eyes. So I got a 9-month-old and he's bottle feeding. But when I was nursing way back when, ooh, feel like so forever ago. Sometimes I would be on my phone because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here forever. We
Mm.
trying to. This was the beginning, right? Like we're trying to learn how to latch, and I was so distracted, and I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I need to take a minute and just enjoy this moment.
Mm.
And so now bottle feeding is a time where I still hold him as big as he is. At 9 months, he about as big as me. I'm holding him and I'm looking in his eyes. I'm talking to him. I'm holding his hand, right? And even when we sit at the table, I'm making sure that the TV is off.
Mm.
For childhood, so I have a niece who's 3. So I'm actually getting to experience all 3 of these stages. It's so funny. But with her, with the childhood, so those who are like 3 to maybe I want to say like 10,
Finish. Yeah.
yeah, 10ish, yeah. We want to be intentional about helping them explore their emotions. And helping them, like when they are, whether they are having a tantrum, if they're crying, like literally naming those emotions to them. Oh, it looks like you're feeling sad, and helping them to explore the different feelings and emotions that come up.
Mm.
And then if we have an adolescence, I got that too. I got a 16-year-old. Um, Mamas, daddies, parents, caregivers. We want to be intentional about power sharing versus power struggle.
Mm. Say it again. Say it again, Amber. Say it again.
We want to be intentional about power sharing instead of a power
Mm.
struggle.
Mm.
This does not say let your child run your house, okay? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is give them the autonomy, give them the freedom to make decisions for themselves.
Mm.
Give them a little bit more responsibility.
Mm.
Because at this age is really the best thing that we can do for our parent as parents is to be the counselor or consultant, as you mentioned in one of your a while back, right?
Uh,
We are just here to offer advice. And when we do this, we encourage them and we are helping strengthen, we're strengthening that confidence, we're strengthening those problem solving skills, and we're giving them the freedom to go out and explore. Okay. So this is just because this is also that time when they are learning to establish their own identity.
mm.
And at this age, we can't be wrapped up in mom and dad all the time. We gotta, give them the freedom to explore themselves. Okay.
Mm.
Um, and if you are a parent who is like, okay, what can I do for me? Forget them kids. No, I'm teasing. But if you're a parent who's like, okay, what can I do for me? Because I'm like, I really want to learn. Um, I want to encourage you all to like literally, if you have your phones with you right now, schedule a time to check in with yourself every day.
Mm.
So literally pull out your phone. If you're on your phone, go to your calendar app, go to your reminders app, whichever app is best for you, and schedule a time to check in with yourself. And literally all you're doing is learning to explore your own emotions
Mm.
during this time, right? It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be in the morning before you get up and start your day, it can be at night before you go to bed. But be intentional about taking the time to become curious with your own emotions because there's so much wisdom in our emotions and they teach us so much, right? And so we want to practice becoming aware of our own feelings, our own needs, our own emotions.
Yes, that is so, so good. And you just made me think about for anyone looking for a new book to add to your book collection, for you to name, like for the parent who may be trying to work towards that secure attach or inch towards that secure attachment, to just sit with what you're feeling, right? To sit with your feelings, to even sit with experiences. It made me think about, it's a book called Parenting from the Inside Out by
Mm,
Dr. Daniel Siegel, that
mhm,
basically talks about the number one predictor of how children become attached to their parent is
mhm.
how well the parent has made sense of their own feelings and emotions and experiences in childhood. And so literally the number one predictor of how a child attaches is the way the parent has been able to reflect and sit with and make sense of those things. That don't mean everything makes sense, right? But
Right,
coming
right,
to peace with it, right? Or understanding that it was like just making sense of it, whatever that looks like for you. And so for you to name like literally a practical step for parents this week is to sit with those feelings, maybe even sit with those memories, explore those memories, get curious about those memories and experiences. That is literally a building block and a step to helping your child form a secure attachment with you. I love that so much. As you build security within yourself. I love
Absolutely.
that so much. That's so good. And I know if anyone is wondering, I know Amber hit a lot about feelings and emotions. If you like, I need help with that when it comes to not just, how do I teach my child? That sounds simple to some people, but the reality is some people have never been taught about emotions, right? And maybe that's a no-brainer for more of the population than I'm thinking it is right now. But for a lot of people, we just don't have an emotional vocabulary because we were never taught. And so we're going to have to hit on that one week when it comes to building that emotional vocabulary, on how to think through and process through those emotions and feelings, because that is a huge tool that's not just good for our kids, but us. Like, we got to put our own mask on first, right? How they say on the airlines.
Yep.
Put our own mask on first. Yes. I love that. Look, I know we have just been chatting it up. I'm gonna get ready to end this soon. But before we go, Amber, is there any final words you want to leave with those who are listening?
So today, my husband randomly asked me if I could be any animal, what would I be? And I sat there and I took some time to think about it. My first thought was a bird. First thought. But instead of saying that, I went on to my second. I was like, I want to be something tough. I want to be like a lion or a tiger or a bear, right? Because I'm afraid of heights. And so I said this to my husband, literally told him like, well, babe, my first thought was to be a bird, but I'm scared of heights. I want to be something tough. I want to be like a tiger, And he was like, babe, you know what I just heard in that? He said, birds, when they fly, they reach new heights. And he said, what I just heard you say is you're uncomfortable to reach new heights. And I said that to say, when we begin to implement these changes, when we begin to do something out of the norm, we start to reach new heights. And it can be scary. It can be uncomfortable. But I want to encourage you all, no matter when, hey, don't allow the fear to stop you from reaching new heights. Do it scared. That is my motto in this season. Do it scared. And even if you are uncomfortable, lean into the discomfort, because the stretching, the discomfort, the fear, it's all a sign that we are growing.
Yes. Lean into the discomfort. That's it. Lean. As we share a mentor and coach, yes, always telling us to lean into it. I love that so much. Amber, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for those who were able to tune in, to chime in. Greatly appreciate it. I really hope that we all hear what you just said about not letting the fear stop us as we change and as we grow and evolve, especially when it comes to this parenting journey. Because I mean, it's a lot. It is a lot, but it is so beautiful, so much to learn and discover, and to take the new heights, right, with a smile and embracing it, even in the face of fear, even in the face of discomfort, to just embrace the journey. So thank you so much for those words. Thank you for your insight and wisdom on attachment. I pray those who are listening have a nugget to walk away with. Make sure you probably got to watch this one more than once, right? to listen again and take some more notes. But thank you so much. So Amber, tell the people how they can follow you for more gems and insight as it comes to all the things you do in attachment as well.
Yes. You can follow me at Labor of Love on Facebook or Amber Ashford on Facebook.
Nice. So that is Amber Ashford. That's on the screen for you, Amber Ashford, or Labor of Love. Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. I enjoyed this.
Yes, awesome. All right, you guys. Y'all take care.
Bye.